for this week. A little bit of a strange one, but a fun one nonetheless, or at least fun in a hindsight is 2020 kind of way.
No. Don't say 2020. That is dead to me.
Well, yeah.
We're no longer allowed to use that phrase. Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. Hello, podcast listeners. So I just got back from a trip. If you follow me on social media, I went on a little road trip, did some landscape photography, and I've got all of this shag on my face here that I'm going to be shaving off as soon as we're done recording this episode. Just got back. But yeah, it'll be a good one. Stuart, how are you doing? What are we talking about today?
Doing well. This is the shag episode, sharing your shag with the audience before it is removed. So
I've got way
special
too much puff. I've got way too much puff going on up here. I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Today we're doing a little bit of a lighter episode. We're going to be talking about technology, the things we love and the things we hate about technology, our pain points. So that's
technology is the best and the worst. I love it, and it is the bane of my existence.
It is. So we're going to be talking about technology in general, and specifically technology related to or adjacent to photography and videography. So we're going to share our trials and tribulations.
Oh man, I love to hate technology. Technology is the worst, but we need it. It is just so ingrained in our lives.
Oh yeah, it makes the world go round.
Let's start by saying that we are both very tech-savvy people, you more so than I, and technology is amazing. It can do so many incredible things. It brings us Netflix, and it brings us, I don't know, what else does technology do? That's it, just Netflix, nothing else.
That's it. Netflix is the only good in the world.
Well...
Well, yeah. So
what are all the amazing things technology brings? I mean, I have a smartphone that allows me to text and take photos and video record and can do a million crazy cool things in my pocket in the size of my palm at a moment's notice.
So everything kind of smartphone adjacent as well, I think, is pretty cool. So the extreme explosion in smartphones and the reduction in cost of a lot of the parts in smartphones, things like accelerometers, gyroscopes, all those fun things, even just the screens and better microphones and all those kind of components that make up smartphones have really blown the market wide open on a lot of other stuff. So like gimbals, for example, electronic stabilizers, a lot of the parts that made gimbals possible as a category of equipment and reasonably priced came from accelerometers and gyroscopes and stuff from the smartphone market becoming increasingly capable and cheap. So there are knock-on effects in certain technological markets that make others really interesting and cool and available in ways that they weren't before.
Smartphones are awesome. Everything smartphone adjacent is awesome. But the one thing they can't do, actually be used as a phone to call people.
Yeah, that seems to be increasingly a problem. Just the other day, I couldn't hear anybody for no reason. Like, my phone works just fine. I actually reboot it regularly. I know that's going to be the first thing people ask is, well, do you reboot your phone? Well, one... I feel like you shouldn't have to. It's based on Linux, right? So, or at least Android phones are. Well, they kind of all are to some degree. So, in theory, you shouldn't have to reboot them very frequently, but I do reboot mine. And even still, this mysteriously cropped up. I couldn't hear anybody. It was for no reason. And of course, a reboot solved it. But this has happened a couple times now, and it's just frustrating. This is a very expensive phone. There's no reason for it to fail at its core competency.
I will click on the app to call people, and there will be lag pulling up the app. So I will wait a good 30 seconds before I can actually punch in numbers, and sometimes I just miss having physical buttons.
Yeah, you have gigs of RAM on a phone on a computer in your pocket, and it lags just making a call or even doing really basic stuff. Kind of along these lines, I was reading recently that load times for websites have not actually notably decreased pretty much the entire time the web has been around. So even though we've got orders of magnitude faster computers and faster internet connections, nothing is really getting noticeably faster or smoother or a better experience. It just kind of looks fancier.
How much of that is due to when you increase the capacity that a thing can handle, people up the load to match?
That is true. That's why basically it has kept pace. Is people are overloading things with JavaScript and fancy animations and stuff, and to some degree that's cool. But also I feel like
and larger images.
But
Yeah.
even then, like the amount of code that is running on an average web page now is just staggering, and for the most part, it doesn't really need to be there. I mean, unless you're doing something particularly amazing, like it just gets in the way a lot of the time. So it's cool what we can do in a browser, but also I think the downside is it's used for either user unfriendly at worst or at best, or nefarious purposes at worst. Yeah,
I mean, so I love to hate technology. I love and hate technology. Both those sentences are true. I'm not sure which one will title this episode. But I mean, even just trying to record this episode, we were having a recording mishap through some of the settings on the microphones or something, even though nothing changed. And then I we just couldn't get it to record. So, like, it does one thing, it's set up, it's done. You would think nothing would change, but then there's that ghost in the machine that something changes anyway, and it just stops working.
I would call this the opacity of technology, it being particularly frustrating in that things will be exactly like you said. I like my setup, I've had some issues with it, and just today and literally yesterday with the exact same setup, no changes, 0 changes whatsoever, it performed perfectly. Today it wanted to be a problem, and for no particular reason, again, literally no changes whatsoever, and that kind of opaqueness where things just break and you can't figure out why, is very frustrating. And that's become an increasing problem as software companies build software that is user friendly but doesn't allow users to then see what's going on. So you get these really useless error messages, if you get an error message at all, that are just saying, that literally sometimes just say something went wrong. Like, okay, well,
there
great,
was
what?
one error code I got on my Windows machine, and when I looked it up, it says a critical failure has happened. That was the error code message. I'm like, that's not useful at all. Is it my graphics card? Is it my motherboard? Is it a hard drive? Tell me something.
Yeah.
Nope, nothing. But on that train of something breaks and you can't figure it out, I've definitely had that happen. And when I'm on a shoot, it is the most frustrating thing ever. If this episode has any tips, here it is. Here's the one tip. Don't let that happen, or have a backup plan. Don't allow technology failing you to ruin your shoot. So I'm a flash photographer. I love flash photography. I have a whole fleet of pocket wizards for various reasons. I even have a couple different models that I've used. I have some models that I have very much liked and bought more of, and some models that I've liked less and sold off. And then I have some models that are specifically designed for single purpose. This is the thing I use them for. So I talk about regularly my triple click cosplay photo booth. And so that is a thing where I have some special pieces of gear that are overkill for any other shoot, but I need them specifically for that. So, there are things, but one of the things that I absolutely hate is I have 2 different cameras. I have a Lumix camera and a Canon camera, and I will put the Pocket Wizard on each of these cameras. It won't work on either one, except it is actually the camera failing, not the Pocket Wizard, and each camera had a different reason why it failed. But if you can't determine that, and especially if you can't determine it in about the first 30 seconds, you gotta just give up and work with it. So on my Canon camera, I plugged in the speedlight into the hot shoe, and the thing is, I actually sent the Pocket Wizard back, or no, I didn't plug in the speedlight, I plugged in the Pocket Wizard, but I sent the Pocket Wizard back to Pocket Wizard. hashtag not sponsored, for repair. And they looked at it and they said, well, we don't actually have to repair it because this is within our degree of tolerance for it being a perfectly functional unit. And so I sent my camera into Canon to have them look at it, and they said there's nothing because it is within degree of tolerance of a perfectly functioning unit. But the thing is, the little threads on the bottom of the hot shoe for the Pocket Wizard had shifted slightly, and the little threads on the hot shoe of my Canon had shifted slightly, and they shifted in opposite directions. So that particular Pocket Wizard just did not fire on my Canon. Every other one did, just not that one, because the little contacts weren't aligned properly. So that is a thing where all the technology says it works, it's functional, and all of these companies that sell these products say it works, but then I go on a shoot and then it just doesn't work. So
and this
I
is
actually
professional gear.
I
And
know, right?
Yeah, this is not. To some degree, you can expect jankiness from cheap gear, but none
But
of
this
what
is
we're
the
using
top of the
is
market.
cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And then when I put it on my Lumix camera, this one was user error, but the interface was so just garbled, and I had no idea this would happen. So on the Lumix camera, the autofocus has a beep, and clicking a menu has a beep, and every button, a half press has a beep, and a full press has a beep, and all of that was getting really annoying. And on the trip I was on last week, I was trying to shoot some wildlife. So I found a menu setting called silent mode, and it turned off all the beeping. I'm like, this is excellent. Let's just do the rest of the trip in silent mode. But I was on the trip with a buddy, and I wanted to use the little pop-up flash on the camera, and so I hit the little button that toggles the mechanism for the pop-up flash, which is supposed to turn the flash on, but then it didn't. It didn't turn on. It wouldn't work at all. So I said, okay, you know what? It's not working. I popped it back down. I put my speed light in my hot shoe. Speed light wouldn't fire. I couldn't figure it out. So I just started fiddling with it for another half an hour, and what I didn't realize is silent mode not only turns off the beeps, but it deactivates the flash and the hot shoe, as if you were like, I don't know, a sniper and you don't want anyone being able to see where you are. That is not what I cared about in silent mode. I just cared about all of the beeps to stop beeping. I wanted the rest of the functionality to still be there. So this is kind of what we mean of like, technology is great. Technology has enabled me to become a photographer, because I actually studied it in the darkroom and it was atrocious and I hated it. And it wasn't until digital that I'm like, cool, this is awesome. I like it a lot. I'm going to do that for the rest of my life.
Plus, digital has led to the democratization of video.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, shooting video used to be like, you got film or nothing.
If you didn't have $100,000, you couldn't do video.
And now it's so approachable on tremendously small budgets for good quality. I mean, you can shoot 4K for $400 or $500 these days, and pretty good 4K.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, technology can do some amazing things, but it also just sucks sometimes.
Oh yeah, it certainly does.
I mean, yeah, so like I said, this episode, it doesn't really have a point. Do we have any tip here? When you're on a shoot, give yourself about 30 seconds. If you can't solve it in 30 seconds, throw it away, figure something else out. In my case of like, maybe you grab a reflector. Just hold a physical, non-technological item and do the thing that you need to do. Will your photos turn out differently? Yeah, absolutely. A reflector does not have the same look as a flash, but will you get the job done, and will the client be happy with the result? That's really all I care about when I'm out on a shoot.
My addition / building on that when it comes to technology and technology problems is redundancy. You have to assume that everything is going to break all the time. This recording setup is a great example of, I only really have it set up one way right now, and my intention is to have multiple redundant systems. So if something doesn't work, I can record on an entirely different piece of hardware, but it all is still plugged into the same system. So to the viewer or listener, everything is exactly the same, but to me, I can adjust and change and have multiple systems that support this recording if there's an issue. Now that is just for this, but I back up my my computer, and everybody should back up their computer because you need to assume that hard drives are going to die randomly and you're going to lose all your data. In the case of, like, you see a lot of photographers walking around with 2 cameras. I mean, sometimes that's just for the exchange of lenses being
having a wide and a telephoto at the ready.
That you need to be at the ready, but also to some degree, if one of those cameras died, you at least still have a camera that's functioning. That this redundancy goes from at almost any level. You should have duplicates of something, or at some point you'll probably be sorry if you don't. So
it's true.
Yeah, definitely. If you can't have the exact same duplicate setup, at least have some sort of backup plan. Like if I really needed to, and this recording setup totally failed, I could put something together that would sound pretty good and would be a little bit annoying to set up, but still possible. So at least have some sort of backup plan, some plan B or plan C or plan D. Or who knows, maybe all the way down the alphabet.
I think another version of that, of having backups for tolerance for technology failing you, how important is it that the thing doesn't fail?
Correct.
If I'm just doing a TFP shoot where, it's like we're meeting for like 10 or 15 minutes, I'm not going to bring both camera bodies and backup lenses and whatever. I might just like bring the one body with the thing that I know I'm going to be using. Like I was shooting someone recently who spins on one of those kind of like wheels, like a circus performer type thing. And I've seen those shot with long lenses and they don't look good. They look really excellent when you can get really close to it with a wide lens. Saying we were only going to shoot for like 10 or 15 minutes because after that his arms and feet get tired. It was right next to my house, whatever. It's a super low budget. No one paid anyone anything. We were just, getting together to do a thing. I brought one camera, one lens. We just, started shooting, made it happen. And if something would have failed, like, all right, we can meet again. If you're going on a trip and you can't make that trip again, maybe you need backups. If you're shooting a wedding and that wedding won't happen again, maybe you need backups. Something else that I'll kind of throw in and say about the backup thing is I like to have duplicates of the exact same model, the exact same thing. So like if I'm shooting with my Canon 5D3, instead of buying like the new like 5DS or 5DR, what are they on now? I know 5DS was the last camera I was personally excited about, but that was literally like 8 years ago. What are the kids talking about these days?
I am not sure. I heard that the 5D line with since I don't shoot Canon very frequently.
The 5D line is kind of at an end, but they're starting the like mirrorless full frame R5, something like that. Anyway, all of this to say, if I were to buy the new, R5, and I've got these 2 cameras, right? Not only will the things look a little bit differently, but the muscle memory of where the buttons are is going to work differently, and the interfaces are going to be different, and the settings might be set a little bit differently where you weren't expecting that thing to happen because you have your original one set up to rear camera flash, like second curtain sync, and you don't have the new one set up to that. So if you don't have identical cameras with identical settings, then when you're switching something out, there's a little bit more of a toll and muscle memory and more things prone to happen. So I like buying old gear because it's what is good enough, what is going to get the job done. When that camera came out, it was almost $4,000, but I bought a new one used for like $1,200. Or new one. I got a second one used for $1,200 because the 5D Mark IV came out, and they're like, we don't need the 5D Mark III anymore. And I'm like, great, better deal for me. I get duplicate equipment.
Yeah, it's nice to chase the new and shiny, or it's exciting to do so. I shouldn't say it's nice, but a lot of the time it's better to have duplicates of what you already have, or potentially it's better, even if you're buying something new to you, you might want to have duplicates of an older thing. Like, so instead of buying the new, whatever Panasonic's new full frame is, maybe instead of buying one of those, I buy 2 GH5s, right? Plenty good.
That's funny that you said Panasonic, and we both immediately thought of the exact same camera.
You know where I'm going with that.
That's the one. Yep, get that one.
Yeah, that is quite the bang for your buck, especially right now. So yeah, it behooves you to have duplicates, sometimes exact duplicates of the setup. It will save you many times over.
Yeah, I mean, another thing to think about is if you can't afford exact duplicates, when you upgrade, don't sell your old one. That's your backup now.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, I don't know. A little bit of a weird episode today, but
short,
we're
easy.
trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
It's a complainy episode, but we want to point people in the right direction, and duplicates and redundancy is good.
All right, folks, here's what I want you to do. Do me a favor. All right, go to the comment section right now. If the podcasting platform that you're listening to doesn't have a comment section, find this video on YouTube and leave a comment on the YouTube video. So leave a comment with, why do you love to hate technology? When has technology failed you in the clutch moment where you absolutely needed it and it did not come through? I'm like, I bought you because you do one thing and one thing only, and you didn't do that thing. You had one job.
One job. Yeah, I'd love to hear some stories. That sounds good.
I want to know. I'm curious. Leave a comment.
Oh yeah, it's always fun to hear those hear those failures. We can commiserate.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at Non-Creative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.